Welcome everybody, I'm John Flaherty from the Yes Network. This would have and should have been the week of the 2020 Yogi Berra Museum Awards. I've had the pleasure of hosting the celebration at the Plaza Hotel in New York City the last 2 years, and it truly is one of the highlights of my year. The Yogi Berra Museum Awards recognize individuals who embody the values of the great Yogi Berra: respect, teamwork, perseverance, and humility. If ever there was a time that the world needs those qualities, it's during our current situation. While the doors to the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center are closed, the museum is continuing to sustain Yogi's legacy through virtual programs that are keeping us all connected, even while we all remain safely apart. In that same spirit, even though we can't celebrate at the Plaza this year, on behalf of the museum, I'd like to share with you some highlights from the past 3 Yogi Berra Museum and Awards ceremonies. There's nothing like a great yogi story to put a smile on your face. I hope you enjoy them.
And only because Yogi and guys like old Yogi and Elson Howard taught me how to play the game, this is something that really very dear to me. I remember when I was a 21-year-old kid and growing up a Yankee fan and a Met fan, because the Met fans are here. I don't want to make you feel like you're left out. Yeah, I got a lot of love for you, even though you dogged me out, but that's okay. That's all right. I still love you. I still love you. But I remember Yogi taking me under his wing as a young player. I was 21 years old. You know, I'm thinking about Yogi Berra, great player. You know, I'm sitting in the lobby every day. Yogi's always sitting in the lobby every day, and he would actually sit around and wait for the guys to go to the ballpark. So I'm kind of thinking to myself, you know, why every day he's just sitting there waiting for the guys to come down and everything? So finally one day he goes, "Hey, Shorty." He calls everybody Shorty. Same thing like Phil, "Hey, Shorty, you going to the ballpark, Shorty?" "Yeah, Yogi, I'm going." So let's ride out together. So I'm 21 years old, making him a minimum salary. And back then, the minimum was what, $16,000 maybe, something like that? Wow, I thought I was rich actually, but that's chump change nowadays. But so I'm thinking, okay, I'll get a ride to the ballpark. We went to Chicago, and Chicago, if you remember, it's a long ride. It's like a good half-hour ride. So I figured, no, maybe I can get a freebie here or whatever. Yogi, save some of my meal money. So I jump in the car with Yogi. I'm sitting there in awe of this man. Okay, I'm sitting there while I'm actually riding to the ballpark with Yogi Berra. You're kidding me right now, right? So we get to the ballpark and we pull up to the front of the gate there, and there's kids outside waiting for autographs and things of that nature. And all of a sudden, I go in my pocket to kind of share the ride. All of a sudden, Yogi just takes off. So I'm like, wait, Yogi, where you going? And he had this, you know how Yogi used to get that little, he had that little grin. And he actually stiffed me and left me hanging. I'm like, oh, you gotta be kidding me right now. I'm a rookie. And he just walked away, and he did that to everybody. But you know what? It was an honor and money well spent because Yogi always, he always gave me a lot of love and taught me how to be a Yankee, how to play the game the right way. With Elston Howard, my teammates, Ron Guidry. We came up together, Gator, back in the day. You know, Louisiana Lightning.
I'm a loud guy, you know, I'm always moving my hands, things are always going around, and my man Yogi was kind of quiet, you know, he didn't really say a lot, and I think the one story that we talked about the most was in 2010, it was my second year with the Yankees, and there's no one, well, there's probably some, but in my mind, there's no one that took more pride in being a New York Yankee than myself. And to be able to have coffee in the morning with guys like Yogi Berra and Ron Guidry, and I'm saying to myself, like, wow, man, I'm this little punk from West Virginia, and all of a sudden I'm rubbing shoulders with these Hall of Famers. Like, how is this possible? Like, how am I that lucky to be up here? So I think just in general, I love what Yogi Berra stood for. And I think that's where my love for him really came in, because it's not all about the numbers. It's not all about the accolades. It's not all about the championships. It's about what you leave behind. And it's funny because Flash talks about every New York Yankee has a holy crap moment, right? Just the little things that he would tell me, and how simple he would make it sound. And the actual story goes like this. We were in the dugout in 2010 that year, and Gator and Yogi used to sit in the same spot every single game, right by the water cooler, right? And you know when camp starts early and there's like 800 guys in the dugout and you can't see over them and you're trying to figure out what's happening in the game. And I was kind of struggling a little bit in the earliest spring training, and I struggled with the changeup. That was my thing. You could throw 140 miles an hour and I feel like I would find a way to time it up, but the changeup always got me. And I was swung, I think I struck out twice or something, and on some changeups early, down in the dirt. Catcher scooped him up. I remember going back in the dugout and I launched my helmet and I sit down and Yogi looks at me and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, hell no, I'm not okay, Yogi. I can't even see the ball, man. I can't even hit it. I don't even know what's going on, man. And he's like, all you gotta do is move up in the box, Nicky. And I'm like, what do you mean move up in the box? I always sat deep in the batter's box. It felt more comfortable. I felt like I had more time to react to the pitch. And he said, all you have to do is move up in the batter's box. And I literally moved up in the batter's box that far and had the greatest year of my career that year. And I was like, man. I was like, Yogi, where were you the first 7 years of my career, man? But I think just in general, I think the word that comes to mind standing up here is grateful and honored to be here and to represent and to keep Yogi's vision of life, to just continue to keep giving back and to try and be the best person you can be each and every day. Because like we talk about, at the end of the day, your last name and what you stand for is all you're really leaving behind. I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. This is by far one of the coolest things I've ever done in my life. I'm still super nervous, so I'm really excited. But I want to say thank you. My man Yogi, brother, we think about you every day, man. We love you, and you are missed all the time, man. See you. Thank you very much.
On the occasion of the inaugural Yogi Berra Museum Awards, I'd like to express to you what a special moment this is for us. Or as Dad would say, thank you for making this day necessary.
You talk about statistics, not doing someone justice, even though they're Hall of Fame statistics. You don't become a part of Americana the way Yogi was and continues to be without being a special individual. My daughter, who is now 28 years old and teaches 9th grade English literature, grew up in St. Louis. And St. Louis, of course, is the hometown of Yogi Berra and Carmen. And we would frequently go to have Italian dinners on the hill, and you could drive past Yogi's boyhood home right next to the church. It's still there on the hill in St. Louis. And my daughter was such an inveterate reader that even in the summertime, when she was 7, 8, 9 years old, she'd be reading a book. And somehow, this little girl born in 1989 became infatuated with Yogi Berra. And she read everything. When she was 7 or 8 years old, she read everything she could get her hands on about Yogi Berra. And one time I was leaving the house, dressed in a dark suit, to attend the funeral of an elderly acquaintance. And she said, Dad, where are you going? And I explained. And she said, that's a very good thing, because remember, always attend your friends' funerals. Otherwise, they won't come to yours. So she had absorbed her lessons well. And so now I tell Yogi about this. Now, it's one thing if he said, oh, that's very nice. Or if she ever comes to the ballpark, bring her by. He said, no, bring her to Montclair, and Carmen and I will take you to lunch with her. And that's what happened. 9-year-old girl at lunch with Yogi Berra, because that's the sort of person he was. Now, I looked in the program, which is fantastic, by the way, all the pictures dating back. You know, normally you come to an event like this and you take the program home and you throw it on the table, and then pretty soon, after a month or so, it goes out because it isn't worth much of anything. This is actually a keepsake, but I noticed that there are 10 or 12 of Yogi's most famous sayings, and I guess this one wouldn't fit, but it's my single favorite Yogi story. And for years, I thought it was apocryphal. It couldn't possibly be. And then I worked up the nerve to ask Yogi if it really happened. And he's, yeah, it did. So it goes like this. It's around 1973, and Yogi is managing the Mets. And those of us of a certain age recall that at that time, streaking was something of a national craze. But There was no TMZ, there were no cell phone cameras, there was no internet, so if a streaking incident took place, it was a word of mouth deal. And it's a spring training game, an exhibition game, come to think of it, which is appropriate, and a streaking incident occurs during a Mets game against the Phillies. And the next night, they're playing the Yankees in a spring training game, and Mickey Mantle and Whitey Ford are honorary Yankee coaches during spring training. I'm not sure what those duties entailed, but they seek out Yogi at the batting cage before the game, and they want to hear all about it. And Yogi says, damnedest thing. Third inning, Seaver goes into his stretch, and here they come. 3 of them, stark naked, run across the infield, jump over the fence behind third base, disappear into the parking lot. Mickey says, wow, were they men or women? Yogi says, you know, I couldn't tell. They had bags on their heads.
I signed in 1984. I was a high draft pick out of a high school in New Jersey. I had a dinner at the stadium, and Yogi Berra was the manager in 1984. I was with my mom. I have a picture with Yogi and my mom, and to this day, my mom is 93 years old. She has it in her assisted living place, and she cherishes it. I get to the big leagues in '87. I get traded in '89 to the Toronto Blue Jays. Didn't do much for the Yankees. But when you're drafted, and guys that are in this room that have played for your first organization, you feel this connection. I grew up a Mets fan, so I know when Mr. TORRE was a manager there. I was a Mets fan from 1969 when I was old enough to watch a black and white TV when they played. So I'm the unique guy up here with respect to having on both sides of growing up a Mets fan and starting with an organization that's near and dear to you. The circle for me is when I retired in 2005, I wasn't very good. I leave the Marlins, get rid of me. I go to the Yankees. They sign me, thankfully, through Brian Cashman. I come to the Yankees, and I'm there for half a year. Great moment for me was a start that Joe allowed me to start on a Sunday night in an ESPN game, and I guess things weren't going all that great for starting pitching in 2005. They gave me a start, and it was a moment that I'll never forget. And I appreciate to this day Joe and the late Mel Stottlemyre. But part of that whole encompassing circle, the following spring training, I got an opportunity to go to the WBC, which was the first World Baseball Classic. I come back, and I go into to Joe, and I said, I'm done. You know, I'm 40, and I'm ready. And I asked Mr. TORRE, I have the back of my mind. No, you're respected by all, and what Bernie and Jorge and anybody who played for you, you're just a unique, different man. Thank you. And I said to him, and I said to Joe, because there was nothing wrong with my arm. I was fine. I was just 40, and I knew it was time. And I asked Joe, I said, well, can you give me an inning? He's like, well, and he's looking at the paper, and he's like, well, Randy Johnson's got to pitch. And it was like one of his last few starts. He's got to get 70 pitches in, and I think somebody else had to pitch, and Mo was going to finish. I said, well, if you could give me an inning. I know it's only a spring training game. Turns out Randy's got like 40 pitches after 7 innings. He gives me a chance to get one out. Eduardo Perez is the batter. And Ron Guidry is the pitching coach. So when I first got to the big leagues in 1987, Gator was on the team, and oh my God, I was in awe. Willie Randolph, the second baseman in my first start, Mattingly, and I mean, crazy. So Joe allows me to get an out. I get a ground ball to third. Alex throws over to Giambi. Gator comes out. Gives me the ball. Derek's standing here, Cano, and Jorge. And they're all looking at me. And Gator gives me a real legitimate hug. And Jeter looks at me, he's like, what's going on? And I turn to Derek and I say, I just retired. He goes, what? I said, yeah, I'm good, I'm done. So I walk in and I turn, and there's Yogi Berra. And the circle of my baseball life, and I'm gonna get to Shannon Ford, of course, and Jay Horwitz, but my circle of my baseball life, I cried twice in baseball. In 2000, Game 5, we lost to the Yankees. I was with the Mets. I gave it all. It was a moment, but we lost. And in that moment there, when you gave me the opportunity to pitch, and I turned to Yogi Berra, but the Yogiism here is, he's like, what's going on? I'm like, Yogi, I retired. He goes, what'd you do that for? And I'm like, that's a good question, I don't know. I'm like, well, because I'm done. He goes, well, if you change your mind, I'll tell Joe. True story.
Thank you, appreciate that. First and foremost, just want to thank God for allowing us to be here tonight, enjoy this evening, to be able to celebrate Yogi Berra and just to be in his presence. And I guess I'll start it off with Dev, you want to show?
Yeah, he said cheating, he didn't say win Super Bowls. Forgot that one. Just
wanted to give Dev his moment of shine. Whenever you're a twin, you always try to go first and get a head start on him. And being he came into this world 27 minutes before me, I've been trying to steal the spotlight ever since. But we want to thank the Yogi Berra Museum, the committee for choosing us young guys, and just trying to do our part in the community and give back. To be selected for an award like this is just tremendous. And I got a chance to talk to Dale and Larry earlier in the evening, and something Larry said to me and Devin, he talked about his father, and he said in the off season, he didn't travel. He stayed at home. He made sure he was at every game. He was at everything. He took them to every sporting event that was possible. And now myself, a father of three, and my beautiful wife here, and Dev and his beautiful wife, he just became a parent this past off season. And that story, coupled with the things that people have stated while they've been up here, those are the qualities that we want to have as men, not only as athletes, but as fathers, as sons, as brothers, of being able to give back in the community with our family, but also those in need. So we're just honored to be able to accept this award, and I'm trying to take up all the time so Dev doesn't get a chance to talk, but I'll give him his moments.
keep going, man. First, I say thank you for giving us two, because I was going to have to give Jay, I was going to have to give it to him if we only got one, because he was going to be mad I got 2 Super Bowl rings. So I'm happy we get to share. My mom she'd be very happy about that. So like I said earlier to the media, to be mentioned with a person you consider a legend, and to just maybe in the footprint of something of Yogi Berra's legacy, to see the McCourty twins won an award is truly humbling and honoring. So we just want to say again, thank you to his family, who we got a chance to talk to tonight. You guys are amazing, sharing stories and really opening up your arms to us. We really appreciate that. So again, thank you.
It's one thing about both of those wonderful people, that if you've been in their company, you're the most important people in the world. And they left their mark on each and every one of the people that have met them. And I know Yogi, for instance, helped Allie with her golf game, right?
Yes, he did.
Why don't you?
Well, Yogi's words of wisdom to me, I was very fortunate that in their later years, and after Joe retired from managing the Yankees, I was able to partner with him because he played from the ladies' tees. And so we had so much fun together. And Yogi and Carmen always came out to our golf outings and to any of our events. They've always been so supportive. And so towards the later years, our Safe at Home golf tournament was coming about, and they said, well, Yogi's not going to be able to play. And Carmen called me, she's like, Yogi's going to come, but he's not going to play. Is that okay? I'm like, that's okay. And then I get to the golf tournament that morning, and I think Ann from Safe at Home, who's our special events coordinator, comes up to me and she said, Yogi wants to play, what should we do? I said, if Yogi wants to play golf, he's playing golf. But I don't know how I'm going to tell Carmen. So we played, and we were on one of the holes, and sure enough, Yogi goes up, he takes a swing, and he goes down. But we had 3 security guys that were with us, and they came and they caught him. And he gets back in the golf cart, and I'm so upset, and he goes, don't worry, I didn't fall very far. It was okay. then every time we finished a round of golf, he'd say, Alice, now go home and practice your putting.
He was special. There's no question he was special. And I missed him. You know, we won the World Series in '96, and I had called him because at that time he was still on the outs with George. And I called him. I said, Yogi, can you do me a favor? He said, what can I do for you? You know, I said, would you please come to the stadium and give me my World Series ring? He says, no. And not only did he come to spring training, because we have a lot of celebrity, you know, former players that come, but he made every road trip. And usually, you know, the guys will make some of the shorter trips, but we drove together to every single, you know, ballpark. And the long one was, of course, from Tampa to Fort Myers. That was a pretty good jaunt. And so the bus would leave with the players, and yeah, my pitching coach, whether it be Mel or later on Gator, and Yogi. And these were memorable trips because we were in uniform, right? We were in uniform. And, you know, Yogi was about my age at that time. So I can guarantee you every time you'd be on the road for about an hour, you had to go to the bathroom. So we'd stop. Now picture this. We'd stop at a 7-Eleven, and Yogi would get out of the car. And he'd be wearing that number 8, and he'd be walking in, do you have a restroom, you know? And people would look, and they'd say, no, it couldn't be. And you know, Yogi's walk, it was priceless. It was really priceless. It was really special. It was a privilege to be friends with the Berras because they were real people. You know, I mean, he's one of those Hall of Famers that knew he was in the Hall of Fame, but he was big-time people. He was a Hall of Fame person. Just the way he treated people, how he listened to people, and of course, you know, he always gets credited with all these dumb sayings, but that was the last thing Yogi was, dumb. He was dumb like a fox. He would sit with me on the sidelines during spring training games, and he would see things, you know, different players. And, you know, of course, Georgie was my catcher at the time, and, you know, Georgie could do this a little bit better than, you know, and he'd go over and tell him. And the one thing about it, he could give Georgie instructions, and you'd be grateful for it. It's not like, don't tell me what to do, because Yogi had that way about him.
We are 17 years in it, yes, now. And I would say it was about, let's see, I must have known Yogi at least 10 years by this time. And for whatever reason, my nickname is Flip, and he would always call me Phil. So it was always Phil, no matter what. And, you know, after the first, 3 or 4 years of letting this go, I just said, you know, it's okay, it's Yogi, it's fine, it's not a big deal. So one way, Yogi and I were in spring training, which is a great time to be around everybody. It's easy, it's a relaxed atmosphere. Hanging out by the batting cage in the days when you could hang out by batting cages. And we're just, you know, sort of having a conversation, and somebody comes by and says, hello, hello, Yogi, hello, Flip. Hello, hello. And Yogi looks at me and goes, who's Flip? I said, well, Yogi, that would be me. And he says to me, no, that's not you. You're not Flip. Your name is not Flip, your name is Phil. I said, no, Yogi, my nickname is Flip. That's my name. He said to me, no, it's Phil. I said, Yogi, honestly, it's not. He says, okay. Then why does everybody call you Phil? I said, Yogi, you're the only one who calls me Phil. And he says, how can that be? I said, Yogi, I have no idea, but he says, all right, so your name is, and I said, Yogi, my name is John Filippelli. And he says, Phil. I said, Phil Appelli. And he said, oh, Phil Pelly. I said, Yogi, let's just go with Phil. We'll just go with Phil. It's all good. There were, we all have stories that have been around Yogi long enough, and a better person, a more humble person, a more giving person the world has not seen. And, he's obviously missed for all those great qualities. He was a great ball player, obviously a Hall of Fame ball player, but he's a Hall of Fame person. And to be given an award by his museum, his foundation, his group, just to be mentioned in the same sentence with him is humbling in and of itself. And being around him made you a better person, made you realize what you had, and made you realize that there were more important things in life than some of the things that we go through every day, and we just, we angst over. And it's just human nature, I suppose. But he taught me, he certainly taught me, and I will always be appreciative of Yogi for what he taught me. And that was, he taught me, I always thought I had some humility, but Yogi really gave me a lot more. And that's the thing that my takeaway from him is one word would be humility. You have some Medal of Freedom, and, D-Day, all the wonderful Hall of Fame player, a baseball player, obviously, all the great things that were him, and all the great qualities that he possessed. And, if I took away, one or two of those to some small degree, then that's my cherished memory of Yogi.
I not only love Yogi, but having been to the museum and learning center many times, the reason we are here tonight is for the kids and for the life-changing programs that the center offers. We have to keep this special place prospering and growing and serving. So to Eve, Joey, and your entire staff at the museum, bravo to you, kudos to you, and tell me what I can do, because I will be there. Thank you, thank you. The Teammate Award is very special because, as anyone who has ever worn a uniform will attest, you can win many awards and honors, you can have your fingers full of World Series rings, have fame and fortune, but the highest compliment that a player can ever get is that he was a good teammate. And to me, a teammate is somebody that can celebrate with you when you're doing good, that can keep you humble when you're doing great, and more importantly, will lift you up when you're doing not so good. We were playing the Red Sox, and they hadn't won, World Series in quite a few years. That was before they started winning. And that was one of those first playoffs, and there was a whole lot of buzz about that, and reporters were looking for quotes, and I was lost, most of the time when I was in the clubhouse, and Yogi was there, right? So I asked Yogi, what's your, take on this, with the Yankees, Red Sox, all the rivalry? He said, well, we've been playing them for 80 years and they haven't beat us yet. So I said that in the papers. And you can imagine how well I was received in Boston after that. After I retired, I was one of the guest instructors in spring training, and Yogi was there. After his workout, he took a shower, changed into his street clothes, and he was just kind of hanging out in the clubhouse. And I just happened to be there, did the same thing, and we just happened to sort of be in the same place at the same time. And I asked Yogi, Yogi, how different is the game from the time that you played to the time that we're playing right now? That sort of led up to this hour-long conversation that we had, and to me, that was probably one of the things that I needed to finish my career. And I was already retired, so the fact that he just took his time to talk to me about his experience and how he was as a player and his take on this whole baseball thing, to me was just it was almost like grandfather talking to his grandkid. That's the way that I felt. So it was just a really special moment that I will never forget. So with that, thank you so much for this award. It's very humbling. I'm very proud. And God bless. Take care.
Yogi was a hero who believed in his country to the degree that at 19 years old, not only did he enlist after Pearl Harbor, but he was literally at Normandy Beach, 300 yards offshore on D-Day. That is a tremendous, tremendous devotion to one's country. He could have played baseball. He chose to go to fight for his country. And I just want to share that it wasn't just the decorations. He'd received a Bronze Star, a Purple Heart, 2 Battle Stars, ultimately in 2009, Navy's Lone Sailor Award, and then, of course, ultimately, the Presidential Medal of Freedom. But I want to share this to the fellow veterans here tonight, that especially the Semper Fi members with us, Yogi would fully appreciate your service, your sacrifice, and your dedication to our country. Thank you so much. So I credit Yogi Berra with being the reason, not just for going ahead and continuing a great tradition of Yankees, but he was behind the Yankee Nets creation, because he made me realize, and I believe George realized that morning, that this could be something extraordinarily special with the presence of someone like Yogi. That it's not just the history, but it was going to be what was going to be in the future. And frankly, I came away from that morning very inspired. I was so inspired 3 months later when I visited the McMullins and we were finalizing the Devils deal, and Lou Lamoriello said, Finn, come over for the due diligence, walk through, see the Devils who are going to win the Stanley Cup before the Yankee Nets takes them in. And I walked in, and Lou also set me up, because there's the 24 NHL players working out, and in the middle of the room, I can see him like today, sitting in a chair, having a bagel and a cup of coffee in his gray sweats, was Yogi Berra.
I'd like to thank the Yogi Berra Museum Committee for this award. Greatly appreciated. It's beyond words. I don't know if I'll have the right words to say, but thanks to to even just thinking about me doing this. I'll treasure it always. Well, I have a couple of stories. I've shared one of them with my wife. She knows the story. The boys don't know the story. But the first story that I'd like to share with you is, you just saw a film clip of the California game, the 18 strikeout game. As a young pitcher growing up, trying to learn everything that you can learn to get as good as you can get, because where you are, wearing the New York Yankee uniform, it's a tremendous honor, and you want to be as good as you can be at doing that job. And pitching is a pretty rough job by itself, much less wearing a Yankee uniform. And I took a lot of pride in doing it. So as I progressed in my youth learning how to pitch, I realized one day that I was sitting next to not one, but 2 of the best catchers ever to wear a Yankee uniform, because my locker next to Yogi Berra and then Elston Howard. So I came in one day in 1977 as a young rookie, learning how to pitch, being in the starting rotation. And I'm going like, you have the 2 of the best catchers. Why don't you ask questions? Because if you don't ask, you'll never know. So it started. And I would, every 5 days when I got the start, I'd come in and I'd sit down next to him. Hey guys, I'm pitching tonight. And we talk about hitting and we talk about pitching, and we kept going on. Well, a year goes by, 1978. I come in the stadium one day and I sit down, and Elston is sitting in his locker and Yogi's sitting in his head. And I go, guys, you know I'm pitching. And all of a sudden, Yogi jumped up and he looked at me and he went, Gator. He said, you're 10-0. What more can I possibly tell you to get you? Just go out and do what you've been doing. So, you know, I took it to heart and I left him alone and I walked away. And I left and I went out to the bullpen and I came back and I pitched the game. And it just so happens that it was June 17th, 1978, the California game. Well, I walked back in after the game was over, I walked back in the clubhouse and I'm walking in and of course everybody was pounding you on the shoulders and everything else. And I walked back in and this is Yogi and Elston standing in front of their lockers. Like, okay, anything else you need to know? We can't help you anymore. The other story is much more touching, probably means a lot more to me. If I shed tears when I'm telling you, forgive me. I came to New York about a month before he passed away. I had cleared my schedule so I could have the afternoon off on a Wednesday because I knew the team was playing in New York. And I had Joni, don't tell him that I'm coming, I'm gonna surprise him. But I said, I need for you to go get us a couple of cheeseburgers, some French fries, so we can have something to eat while we're watching the game. Now, the ironic thing is, ever since I've been retired, since '89, I've had the pleasure to go to spring training ever since. And that's where him and I developed our close relationship. So there was an instance in one of the games one day where a left-handed batter swung at a foul ball and it flew into the dugout. And I jumped in the front. He was sitting down in the dugout. And of course, I get hit. He's not going to get hit. I get hit. I asked him if he was all right. He said, yeah. He didn't care if I got hurt or not, but that was okay. So, we go about our business. But the ironic thing is, him and I were sitting down in his room, and we were watching the game. And the same thing happened. A left-hander hit the ball, swung at the pitch, the bat flew in the dugout, but it didn't hit anybody. But the commentators who you guys know, Singleton and Michael Kay, were talking about the same instance that happened to Yogi and I. And like I said, I've been going to spring training since '89, and at the time, I had put 25 years in doing that. And I had actually said that was my last spring training, that I was gonna stay home and I wasn't gonna go anymore. So as they were commentating about that instance on the TV, I said, well, that's never gonna happen again. And he turned around to me sitting in his chair and he said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, I told the organization today that this past year was my last year at spring training, that I wouldn't be coming back. And he looked at me and he said, no. He said, you have to go. And I said, why? And he said, because I won't be able to. And it just hurt because I didn't know if he couldn't physically do it or he wasn't going to be around to do it. So I promised him I'd keep going. But I did tell him this: I will go for a few more years, but I'll be damned if I go until I'm 90 years old. Thank you very much.
On behalf of the Yogi Berra Museum and Learning Center, I hope you enjoyed the festivities. In order to keep everybody safe, we postponed the 2020 event until 1 year from today, April 23rd, 2021. I really hope you can join us. And until then, please stay safe, be healthy, and remember what Yogi Berra said, it ain't over till it's over.